There's a guy who likes games,
and
the best that he's played
are the ones
that you'll see on the top
100.
Don't repeat that part. Top 100 games. Good.
Hello, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that Abraham Lincoln called a scourge upon this great land. My name is Cody, and this is my top 100 games of all time. Today, we are getting down to my top 20 games. We're going to do numbers 20 through 11. Coming in at number 20 is a fantastic game that is often compared, I think somewhat unfairly, to a game that appeared earlier in my list, Betrayal at House on the Hill, because they're both kind of tile-laying, horror-themed games that take place in a house. This, of course, is Mansions of Madness from Fantasy Flight Games. Now, in Mansions of Madness, it's actually quite a bit different from Betrayal at House on the Hill, because here, you're trying to solve a mystery that is set up from the beginning. The person who plays the role of the house kind of controls the action, and that person has to meticulously set up the board. That is a slight drawback, because this person has to be really on their toes when they set this thing up, and it can be a little complicated, because even the slightest problem can significantly alter the game. I played a game fairly recently where I had a tile around the wrong way, so people thought there was a door where there shouldn't have been one, and that kind of spoiled one of the surprises of the game. So that was didn't completely ruin the game, but it made it less fun than it would have been otherwise. Still, having said that, this is a great game. You've got these various stories that you're going through, that you're playing, these scenarios. Again, there's not a whole lot of replay value in the base game, because there's only 5 of these scenarios. You have to buy some of the expansions. There's a lot of print-on-demand expansions for it. So it is supported, and there's now several dozen out there if you're willing to spend the money for the scenarios. But they're fun, fun scenarios. It's really an exciting, thrilling game. The house may be a little overpowered, but I almost feel that the person playing the house shouldn't be playing against the investigator so much as maybe playing kind of a role of a DM and facilitating the game. Either way, it's a tremendous game. It's a whole lot of fun, and fantastic minis. Great miniatures. This is another one of those Fantasy Flight productions that is just, knocks it out of the park. That is my number 20, Mansions of Madness. Discriminating Gamer's Top 100 Games. My number 19 is a very different game. This is, I've mentioned some of its cousins already in this list, and this is probably my favorite of the series. I am speaking of Dominaire. Dominaire is one of AEG's Tempest series games, and in Dominaire, which is the 3rd game in the series, you're attempting to control various sections of the city. The various players, I think it's like 2 to 6 players, you're trying to control sections of the city, and whoever can get the most sections of the city will win the game. But the different sections of the city are worth different points, and the points fluctuate depending on different factors in the game. Also, the way you play this game is it goes like 7 rounds, and each round you're going to lay down a card. And it's very important that you keep those cards in the order in which they were played, because you're going to be able to do those things in that sequence throughout the rest of the game. Now, there's a fear that would lock you into a certain strategy, and, I guess in a way it kind of does, but it never really feels like that. You always feel like you do have options. Maybe that last turn you may feel like you painted yourself into a corner a little bit, but it's a lot of fun, and it is brutal. This is a cutthroat game. This is a game where you think, okay, I've got everything right where I need it, and somebody comes along and just takes that away from you. And it is fun. It's a game of betrayal. It's a game of intrigue, and it's really a lot of fun. Another outstanding entry into the AEG's Tempest series. So I highly recommend Dominaire from AEG. The Discriminating Gamer's Top 100 Games. My number 18 is golly, just one of those games that I think really encapsulates what the board game experience should be. When I sit down and I play this game, I think these are the kinds of experiences that board games were invented to facilitate. It's just so much fun every time I play it. I've never played a game that I haven't really enjoyed. Some, of course, more than others, but it's just always consistently very fun. It's a hidden trader game, which are great, but this is Shadows over Camelot. So Shadows over Camelot from Days of Wonder is this great game where you're Knights of the Round Table. One of you is King Arthur, and then the various other Knights of the Round Table. And you've got to go on quests. You got to fight the dragon. You've got to go look for Excalibur. You got to go find the Holy Grail. You got to fight the Picts or the Saxons. There's all these different quests going on. But throughout the game, one of the knights is a traitor. One of the knights is working against all the other knights, and he's trying to sabotage everything. Now, every turn you got to take a good action and an evil action. Take your evil action first, and it's interesting when you are forced to choose an evil action. How, as the game gets more and more desperate, suddenly the accusations start flying. Oh, you laid down that extra siege cannon because you're the traitor. Or you drew that black card because you're the traitor. And you can try to sacrifice life points, but you can only do that so many times. It's a tremendously fun game. Again, another I highly recommend. This is Shadows over Camelot from Days of Wonder, my number 18. Okay, so we're getting into tie country. My next few choices on this list are ties, and you may say that I'm cheating. I don't care. It's my list. Go back to your studies. I don't care. I kind of decided to group some of these games together because they're so very similar. In a sense, they're almost the same game with a few tweaks here and there. So let's go ahead and get started here with my number 17. This is a tie. This is The Resistance and The Resistance Avalon. The Resistance Avalon, these are games, again, hidden trader games. We recently played The Resistance Avalon for a playthrough on the Discriminating Gamer. It's about a half hour long. You can go to our YouTube channel or our website and check out that playthrough. It was so much fun. It was a great game, and we had a lot of fun doing it. We did blind voting, and a lot of people weren't too happy about that. And I can understand the logic behind the open voting, and that's fun too. But we decided we want to play the game with blind voting, and it was a tremendously fun game. So check that out on our website or YouTube. But these are games where you have to go on certain missions. The Resistance is in a sci-fi setting. Resistance Avalon is, again, King Arthur setting. But you're going on various missions, and the missions really aren't anything. It's pretty much just everybody doing secret voting with cards, a success or a fail. But every turn, you have a different leader who picks the people to go on the mission. They have to vote to see who is going to go on the mission. And then those people that go, they get the success and fail cards, they play one. It only takes one fail to sink a mission. So you got to be very careful if you're a good guy who you pick. And it's a game of personalities and deduction, backstabbing and betrayal. It is so much fun. It kind of straddles that line between board game and party game, but I absolutely love it. I'm not a huge party game guy, but I absolutely love The Resistance and The Resistance Avalon. That is from Indie Boards and Cards, and that together, they are my number 17. My number 16 is another tie. And again, this one is from two games that are very, very similar, and they are both phenomenal games. I am speaking of GMT Games' Twilight Struggle and 1989. Now, these are games of area control. Some people call them war games. Some people kind of shy away from that because it's not actually about tanks and infantry and what have you. But this is a game where, a card-driven game, where you're placing chits all over the board. In Twilight Struggle, it is the world, and it's during the Cold War. The United States facing off against the Soviet Union. And as these two sides are facing off here, they're playing cards. But the cards you play, they can benefit you or your enemy and you have to play them. So you're unwittingly helping the other side throughout the game, but it balances out because oftentimes your enemy's doing the same thing for you. In 1989, it's the same mechanic, except, well, it's the same mechanic, but it takes place in Eastern Europe in the year 1989 during the fall of the Soviet Union. And there it's kind of about the communists trying to hold on to Eastern Europe as the Democrats are trying to, of course, bring these emerging democracies to the region. Very intense, very intense. This, to me, and you've heard me say this 100 times, I love games that force you to make bad decisions. There is no game out there that forces you to make bad decisions, forcing you to make the lesser of two evils, like Twilight Struggle in 1989. Hands down, they've got it. And it is so intense, and it is so much fun. These are two-player games. I wish there were ways you could make them for more players, because it's so much fun the way they play out.
Ooh, I hate communism.
But they're both great. The 1989 also has kind of a battle mechanic too, with one of those things where you play cards and the other guy has to match the card, and I like that a lot too. And that's sometimes makes me think I want to tip my hat to 1989 a little more. But I really love the kind of global 40-year theme of Twilight Struggle. These are both highly historical games, and they're both just a whole lot of fun. So again, that is my number 16, Twilight Struggle in 1989, Dawn of Freedom, from GMT Games. And I should point out, too, we reviewed Twilight Struggle in our very, very first episode of The Discriminating Gamer, Season 1, Episode 1. And we had a lot of fun with it, and both Shawn and I just are madly in love with this game. So, again, my number 16, that is Twilight Struggle and 1989 Dawn of Freedom from GMT Games.
Discriminating Gamers Top 100 Games.
My number 15, again, is a tie. So sue me. Again, these are games that are very, very similar. They're kind of, one's kind of, you could almost say sequel/expansion, I guess, if you wanted to. But even, I'm not sure that works 100% well. I'm speaking here of Legendary, a Marvel deck building game, and Legendary Villains. Now, these two games are pretty much exactly the same for the most part. There's a few little mechanical differences here and there. But the original game, you're playing Marvel superheroes fighting the bad guys. And in the Villains, of course, you're playing the bad guys fighting the heroes. They're both a whole lot of fun. There's so much going on in these deck builders. They're deck building games, but they feel like board games. And the cards are kind of like the pieces because they move around the board. And you got to stop them. It's great, great fun. There's a lot of replayability here because you can mix and match the heroes you want to use, the villains you want to use, like I say, different scenarios. But there's also, just kind of different like subgroups and henchmen groups and all these things that you can mix into the game to make it different every time you play. And it's just tremendous, tremendous fun. I love this mechanic. I recently got the Aliens Legendary Encounters based on the Aliens films. I haven't played it yet. I'm hoping to get to that this week. But I absolutely love the system. So it's great, great, great fun. The only drawback to the Legendary system is there's a lot of setup and there's a lot of takedown. You really have to put a lot into getting this game ready. So, once again, this is my number 15, a tie, Legendary, a Marvel deck building game, and Legendary Villains. We also reviewed Legendary Marvel deck building game in Season 1, Episode 5 of The Discriminating Gamer. We had a whole lot of fun with that game in our review. So check that out if you'd like to see more.
There was a discriminating gamer, and he had 100 favorite games.
My number 14 is a game that a friend bought me for Christmas one year, and I thought it looked really cool, and he picked it up for me, and so we started playing it with some other friends, and I fell in love with it immediately. It's a game that has taken some flack. Some people are not wild about it. I just think it's great fun. It's a dice chucker, but it's just great, great fun. And to me, there's a lot of games that have come out in this genre, and this is hands down the best. I am speaking of Cool Mini or Not's Zombicide, my number 14. Now, Zombicide, I think, in my opinion, better than any other zombie game out there. Certainly any other zombie game that I played, and I played quite a few. to me, this feels more like what a zombie apocalypse would be like. It feels like every zombie movie you've ever seen. You've got, of course, the character tropes, and you've got the weapons, and just trying to get out of the city. It's just fun, and it's intense. The expansions are great too. I'm not too wild about playing with some of the super zombies, the armored zombies and toxic zombies. It can get a little too hard there. But I just enjoy the system. I think it's a whole lot of fun. I really, really, really enjoy Zombicide quite a bit. If you like zombies, and I know there's fewer and fewer people every day. Every day someone says, "Oh, I'm so sick of zombies." I still love them. Still get a kick out of them. Zombicide, my number 14, cool mini or not, check it out.
Discriminating. Damn, it's time to load of games.
My number 13 is a game that I played. It's one of the games that I kind of credit with getting me back into board gaming. Now, I say that, I was pretty consistently playing for years on and off Axis and Allies, maybe one or two other games. But this is one of the games that kind of opened my eyes and said, there's some newer games out here. There's some interesting games here. So I started playing this, and that kind of got me further into playing more and more of these games. And started the monster that you see before you today. This is a war game. It's a World War II game, and it was just reprinted very recently, and I just reviewed it a couple of weeks ago, the new reprint. This is Tide of Iron. Tide of Iron, and now it's Tide of Iron the Next Wave. It was originally published by Fantasy Flight Games, who published the base game and several expansions, and now it is being published under the title Tide of Iron the Next Wave by 1A Games, and 1A Games has already created an expansion called Tide of Iron Stalingrad. So there's a lot to this game, but it's a World War II game. It's a tactical game, and it's, I'm sure a lot of hardcore war gamers would call this very light. I think it's kind of a mid-level game. It's a lot more complex than something like, say, Memoir 44, but certainly nothing, I don't think, approaching like ASL or anything like that. But it's a game that, it's fun because you have these little bases, you put these little figures in the bases, you can create your own squads, machine guns, mortars, you got officers, riflemen, elite infantrymen, and then you can also further upgrade them, make them engineers, make them medics, make them anti-tank guys, flamethrowers. You can add all these sorts of things to the units. And you're trying to maneuver on these boards. The boards are good hard cardboard stock tiles. There's just, to me, this is just a super, super fun World War II tactical game. To me, this is the definitive one, because I don't like those super, super mega complex ones. I'm not an ASL guy. A lot of people out there that like it, heaven bless you, but for me, I much prefer something a little bit lighter, and those little miniatures, the little mini tanks, it's a toy factor. It's kind of like a toy box. So I really love it. It's Tide of Iron. It used to come in a big, long box. Now it comes in with the Next Wave, comes in a much smaller, easier to store box. But if you like World War II combat games, I highly, highly recommend Tide of Iron, that is now from 1A Games. My number 12 is a game that I played for the first time a few months ago and absolutely fell in love. It's the second game in a series. The first game in the series, I didn't hear too much good about. I thought it looked interesting, but then everybody kind of said, hey, it's not very good. So I stayed away from it. But then people had to run out and buy computers to write reviews about how much they loved the second one. So I went out, I picked up the second one, and they were right. Fell in love with it instantly. This is Level 7 Omega Protocol. Level 7 Omega Protocol is kind of a dungeon crawl game. It's a dungeon crawl where, one fellow is kind of playing the board, the aliens, whereas the good guys are kind of these science fiction marines that are in this facility, and you can do all sorts of fun things. Again, this game tells great stories. It really has, I think Z Garcia on the Dice Tower said it has a cinematic feel to it. It does. You feel like you're playing, you're playing something out of the film Aliens or something. It's very scary. It's very intense. It's a whole lot of fun. Privateer Press, which Prince had just came out with Level 7 Invasion, which they sent me a copy of that, and hopefully I'm going to get that reviewed here before too long. I haven't played it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks phenomenal. If it's anything like Level 7 Omega Protocol, I will love it. I love, love, love Level 7 Omega Protocol from Privateer Press, and that is my number 12. My number 11, and this was tough. This surprised me. I didn't put it on my top 10, and I very nearly did. I very nearly edged out my number 10 to put it there, and I really wrestled and went back and forth with it. But again, I had to ask myself that one simple question: which game do I have more fun playing? And when I asked that question, I said, this is 11. And 11 is nothing to sneeze at. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of games that I've played. 11 is pretty high up there. And 11 is a phenomenal game. This is from Fantasy Flight Games. Came out just last year. Eldritch Horror. Eldritch Horror is phenomenal. Now, I mentioned earlier in the list Arkham Horror. And I like Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror is a fun game. It's on the list. I think it's in the 30s somewhere. Fun game. But Eldritch Horror has this global feel. It's got so much going on. It's creepy. It's intense. It's fun. It's hard. I've played a lot of games. I don't think I beat it yet. And I still love it. I still love playing it. Who wants to play an easy cooperative game? I love, 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 love Eldritch Horror. Now, I mentioned earlier Fortune and Glory, the game Fortune and Glory, from Flying Frog Productions. I mentioned how that used to be one of my favorite games, and it fell considerably. One of the reasons why it fell considerably is because Eldritch Horror replaced it. Eldritch Horror, I think, is the game Fortune and Glory wanted to be, because it just flows. You know, the clunky mechanics in Fortune and Glory, and there's a lot of waiting, and yeah, there's a little bit of waiting in this game for your turn in Eldritch Horror, but not as much, and it's just not as clunky. It just feels so streamlined. It's already got one mini expansion out. The new bigger expansion is going to come out later this year, and I'm super excited because this is a phenomenal game. Eldritch Horror is, again, a game that makes me want to stand up and cheer even when I lose, because it's an adventure. It's so much fun. 1920s. It's got just that real creepy feel to it, but it's so much fun. I love horror-themed games, and I love the mechanic for Eldritch Horror. Fantastic. I highly recommend it. That is my number 11, Eldritch Horror from Fantasy Flight Games.
The Discriminating Gamers Top 100 games.
And there you have it. That is my numbers 20 through numbers 11. Now, for some time now, I've been saying that we got some surprises coming up for you in this list, and that is going to be my top 10. You'll want to tune in a few days when I post the top 10 list, because we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We kind of did something a little different. It's not just me standing here in front of these games on my shelf. We did something pretty fun. I think you're really going to get a kick out of it. I certainly did. I had a whole lot of fun with it, and I hope to be able to do more stuff like that in the future. But hopefully that whetted your appetite for that episode. Now, once again, I have to ask you, please, please, please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Also, please leave a comment. I really do. I really do want to know what you think about my list. I've had so much fun reading some of your comments and some of the groans. There was that whole war game thing people weren't too happy about. But a lot of people say that we love war games, and you got a good mix of war games and more traditional games or non-war games. Anyway, thank you so much. Leave a comment here on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our website, thediscriminatinggamer.com, or on Facebook. I try to respond to those things, or email me, whatever you want to do, but I really enjoy hearing back from you. So this is The Discriminating Gamer. We're a board game review show, but we're so much more. We like pudding.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going.
Start repeating again. And these games.
Oh, I was looking at something.
That's fine. Just repeat. And these games that you
that you play
are the best. So he says. To be viewed. On YouTube. Are the top
20.
Repeat that part.
Sorry.
Top 100 games. There's a guy who likes games, and the best that he's played are the ones that just say to be viewed on YouTube, and the games that he plays are the best that he says are the top 100 games.
I thought it was around.
It's supposed to be.